Anyway, they did a podcast and they had you on as a guest, didn't they?
Yeah.
And Maggie was like, "Were you a spy?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No. Well, yes, but no. Not like that. It's all very boring.
Hello and welcome to episode 247 of the Health Oddity podcast. And if you are listening on the day of release, like I know many of you do, it's the 23rd of May 2025. So we are moving towards summer. We are joined by a very special guest today who I will introduce you to in a minute. And it's actually the first of 3 female guests in a row that we've got lined up, which is really, really great. So we've got this lady, who I will just say her name, Vicki Farrington, today, who's joining us from the Lake District. Is it Kendal where you're at, Vicki? Yeah, Kendal in the Lake District, which Pete knows a lot about. I've been up to the Lake District once or twice, but I don't really know it. But Pete knows a lot about the Lake District. So we've got Vicki with us today. Next week, we've got Sally Moss, who is the owner of Strength Ambassadors in London. And then the week after, we've got Dr. Nancy Allen, who is a menopause doctor on. The week after that, we've got episode 250, the return of Dan John for his 11th appearance on the podcast. But anyway, let's catch up with Mr. Peter Lant. How are you doing, Pete? You okay?
I'm doing well. Two things. One prediction: Dan will say at the beginning of the episode that he should be on more.
He will. He will.
And the listeners will want to hear that more. Dan John. There should always be more. He will say that because I think he said that. This will be the 11th time he said it. But now also talk about the lakes. Like we've been talking about like doing the walks and stuff like that. We've been talking about moving to the lakes eventually. Like not now, but in the future. Like Threckeld. Do you know where Threckeld is? At the bottom.
Yeah, Nick has
Threckeld, yeah. At the bottom of Blencathra. It's like, you know, we want to live there. It's got 2 pubs, a cafe. There's like, you know, and it's on the main road, so you can get out. It's like when the lakes is busy, it's easy to get out, but it's also easy to get in. And also it's like there's the old railway track, so you can walk to Keswick as well. So it's just perfect. So that's where we're going to live eventually.
Do it. I'm nodding and smiling. Because that sounds absolutely perfect. And just do it.
Yeah.
Don't wait.
No, as soon as we can, we're going to, because Blencathra is my favourite mountain as well. So can't wait for that.
So we are joined today by Vicki Farrington, who, like we said, is up in the Lake District in England, in Kendal. On Instagram, she is sportsrecovery_Kendal. And is also on there as Vic Strength as well. Now, I just mentioned before we started recording that I really wanted to speak to Vicki, because sometimes we can talk about training and strength training and exercise, and it can be very kind of gym centric, or, you know, kind of, you know, what goes on in the gym. But really what I love about Vicki and her Instagram and what she does is she's up in the Lake District. So she lives a very outdoorsy life, which is very similar to our Peter Lant down in Bath. And she's just got back from Mallorca doing a massive 312-kilometer cycle ride, which we'll talk about. But also obviously spends a lot of time out in the lakes, in the fresh air, and actually kind of putting the strength and fitness that she develops in the gym to practical outdoor use, which I think most of our members, especially if you're in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, you don't want to spend all your time in the gym, do you? You want to kind of get out and actually use that strength to explore and have fun. So that's hopefully what we're going to talk a little bit about today with Vicki. So Vicki, welcome to the Health Oddity podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. And you've moved into, I think you're in like a bike workshop, or a kind of an area of where you are, where you do a lot of bike servicing or something like that, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually a set. It's a YouTube studio. My other half has a YouTube channel, free plug, Mapdeck Cycle Works on YouTube. And this is the set, but the behind me, what you see, that is functional, because they do a lot of that stuff on the channel. So it's a working set, as it were.
Okay.
What I love to see is that there's just a little kind of WD-40 there. You always need that.
You always need that. Absolutely.
You need WD-40. In my experience of anything, you need WD-40 and a hammer.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, I was going to say WD-40 and hits it with a hammer. Absolutely.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
So Vicky, I mean, yeah, let's find a bit about you, like in terms of your background and you know, how you came to be in this kind of industry, what it is you do now, because I know you're kind of different to, you know, like I say, you've got this outdoors life up in the Lake District, and how long you've lived up there. Have you always been there? Have you moved up there? You know, let's just kind of find out about you, and we can ask questions as we go, if that's okay.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm Vicky, and I currently run Sports Recovery Kendal, which is a sports massage and sort of strength training business. I opened it in 2019, and it was just me on the books. I now employ 2 therapists, and I have a couple of others that drop in and use the couches that I have here. I also coach kettlebells, barbells for sports recovery clients, but also for Map Deck Cycle Works as well. They have a gym downstairs. We've got, my partner and I have this one big building that we're in, and that contains the bike workshop, the YouTube studio, my business, and a gym. And it used to be, when I moved here, I introduced the gym concept to Paul because he was already doing turbo training and sort of spinning on the bikes, or a version of spinning on the bikes. And I was like, wouldn't it be great if all these cyclists could move off the bike and, you know, have better mobility? And I knew I wanted to do the sports therapy. So yeah, the gym was born as well, and we've kind of grown that together. And it's it's awesome. Prior to 2019, and moving up here and changing and opening the business, I was in the Met Police. I joined that when I was 20. I was a real baby when I joined the Met, and I had 16 years down in London on various different things. I was very operational, very front line for the majority of it. So physical fitness for me was always really, really important. I realized really quickly that the roles that I wanted to do in operational policing, I would need to be as fit and as strong as I could be, just to make it easier. Carrying the kit, they don't differentiate if you're a man or a woman. If you've got to carry a big enforcer, like smash down a door, you've got to carry it. So obviously, yeah, being fit, not tiny, but like not massive, like physical fitness was important. And then I joined ARVs, so armed response, when I was 24, 25. I was horribly young, but I did it anyway. It was wonderful. But again, fitness was massive. And that's where then being fit for work was really important, because we had to do an annual fitness test. And again, the equipment is heavy. So you have to be able to manage yourself, and not just arrive like out of breath and weak as a kitten at the front door. Like, you've got to be ready to go. So
I presume if you're in that kind of armed response kind of unit or something, there's a different level, just like in the military, there's different levels you have to be at. I mean, your average kind of Bobby on the beat who might, you know, walk up and down the high street and doing a few bits here and there, it probably has different fitness needs, but also different fitness testing criteria and things to what you had.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There's a basic level, and then whatever specialist unit you join, it might be dog unit, it might be public order. They have their own levels, and obviously the firearms one sits fairly high up, just for the nature of the role, really, to make you capable. So that then became a thing with my fitness, and I was always doing running, and I got a PT. I realized that strength training was something that I needed to do, and I had no idea how to do it. We had a gym at work, and I just used to look at it and all the guys in there doing bench press, you know, and be like, well, I don't really know if I want to or need to do that, but like, I need to do something. And my PT was amazing back in the day. I remember him getting a sled out in the street in London and making me push a sled. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. Like, this is what I need to be doing. And I quite liked it. And he taught me how to deadlift and stuff. So that was quite key. And then there was the dawn of CrossFit, which at the time was probably a bit different to how it is now. I mean, this was like way back in like 2008, 2009. So we'd only all just heard about it. And I started doing CrossFit because it fit the bill for me I hate the term, but functional fitness. But at, you know, 25, 6 years old, needing upper body strength, massively needing upper body strength, and a cheaper way to access that PT kind of thing. It was perfect for that sort of operational sort of fitness of carrying heavy equipment and being efficient and effective, not having to run far, but run fast, like all of that, it hit the spot. So I did that for a few years.
And were you living in London at this time
Yeah.
as well? So you're working, living in London, obviously big, you know, one of the most densely populated cities in the world, isn't it? You know, so yeah. Okay.
Busy time. And so that was sort of, I saw the competitive side of CrossFit kind of evolve, and I was really resentful of that. I was very stunk towards that. I was just like, what's the point? Who are these civilians? What are they doing? I have a real need, you know, which is very like super immature of me. It must have been great fun if you trained with me. I could never be good enough at CrossFit. It became quite toxic for me because in my own head, I always needed to be better than everybody. And that got really toxic for me and really worked against me. So I stopped doing that and I carried on training. And thankfully, towards the end of that period of time, one of the coaches at the box I was in introduced me to Strong First. And was like, you need some wins, you need some easy wins. I'd done some courses at work that hadn't gone particularly well and was having generally a rough time. And I hear this a lot in Strong First. And if you listen to the podcast, I'm sure everyone in Strong First has a story. So I was having a bit of a rough time at work, a bit of a crisis of career and like identity and everything. And I went on my SFG1 and like the rest is history. Like here I am, SFG2, you know, SFL, run a gym. You know,
was Sven Riga at your first
yes
SFG? Yeah,
he was.
And where was that? Was that at
Liverpool?
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because and what year was that you did that?
20. I think it was 2016.
Okay, yeah.
It might have been 15. I think it was 2016. I did that with Jason Marshall was my master instructor as he was.
Okay.
Because
because Sven, it's funny because Sven dropped into my gym yesterday because he just came over to he arrived in Harwich on the ferry, which is like 45 minutes from Chelmsford, and he messaged me the day before and said, "Oh, can I come and see you? You know, I'm going to be." So he had his kind of camper van and his fiance and his little son Liam, and they came and saw us at the gym and had a coffee. And I said that you were going to be on the podcast today, and he said, "Oh yeah," he goes, "I think I was at her first SFG1, you know, and stuff." Yeah, so he was great. So he sort of said hello.
Oh, hello, Sven.
It was great to hear. So yeah, so you went and did this in, like you say, 2016.
16.
Okay, yeah.
Way before thinking about leaving the job or anything like that. It was just like for me really, and I loved it. And it was all of the things I liked about strength training and fitness. It obviously it blows your mind, doesn't it? If you're even remotely into strength training, you go on one of those courses and your mind is opened. I never intended to use it as a teacher, like as a thing to be an instructor or a coach or a trainer, whatever you want to call it. But as it proved years later, it was incredibly useful. And it definitely helped guide me out of the police, which so I left in 2019 in the May and moved up to the Lakes. It was a fairly easy decision to make. I knew I wanted a change in my life, and I got to that point 16 years into that career of it was like it becomes your life. And I wanted a bit more to my life. I'd given an awful lot of myself to the job. And it was time to do something for me, really. And I'd met my partner, Paul, and I was like, yeah, I choose that over this.
And was he based, how did the Lake District come about? Was he from there, or was he based there, or okay.
So it's kind of a cute story. He lives up in the Lake District, but actually him and I knew each other back in Hertfordshire. We both grew up in Herts and knew each other when we were teenagers. So we kind of had that connection. We hung out with the same people, did the same sort of stuff. And then he moved away when he was like 20. He's a little bit older than me. Like 3 or 4 years, which obviously when you're in a teenager, that's massive, isn't it? And now it's nothing. But we'd always stayed in touch. Always stayed in touch. We got back in touch with each other when he was in the Lakes, because as well as stopping doing like CrossFit for me and stopping doing it was massive, and it really represented a big change and shift in me. So doing my Strong First and having the ability to train on my own, I wanted to do something else. And it's a long convoluted story, but I started open water swimming. And being me, I couldn't actually swim. So I learned to swim. And then being me, somebody suggested, oh, there's a mile-long swim in the Serpentine. You should do that. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds great. So I went and did that. And then they were like, so there's this 5-mile swim in Coniston in the Lake District. Maybe you should do that, Vic. And again, I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. Like, yeah, I'll give that a whirl. So I came to the Lake District and swam Coniston, and Paul, because I was posting stuff on Instagram about swim training, Paul saw this and was like, oh, I remember you. Hello. Like, and yeah, we met up for a drink after Coniston, and now I live here. So.
Yeah. And how's that? I mean, that's a massive change of, you know, Met Police, living in London, doing CrossFit, you know, all of that kind of, you know, urban kind of
lifestyle,
urban lifestyle. And then, you know, moving to the Lake District, open water swimming, you know, the peace, the tranquility, the you know, I mean, how did you, Pete,
I'll just say something. In the summer, the lakes is probably more populated than London.
Yeah, that's creepy. That's very true.
Yeah, but I mean, how was that kind of changing culture? You know, that changing environment. You know, how was that for you?
Great question. Really great question. It was really, really hard. I didn't think about it at all. I gave it no thought. All I could focus on. I actually left the police 3 months earlier than I intended to, because I literally couldn't bear it anymore. I'd moved out my flat in London for the last sort of 6 months to save up, and I moved in with my parents. So I was like lodging with them, having a massive commute into London, I was working in counter-terrorism when I left. So the job was really, really full on, long hours and like really intense. And I was doing that knowing that I was going to leave. And the plan was like leave in October, open the business and build it through winter. So that was all like set, ready to go. And I can't remember how it all came about, but anyway, I ended up handing my notice in the February and leaving in the March, because I just couldn't stay there, or I couldn't keep commuting into Vauxhall at all. I just couldn't do it. And Vauxhall, if you know London at all, it's like, it is super, super busy. It's right next to the River Thames. The tube station is just a series of escalators and humanity. And it was just awful. So I left, which was super positive and really good, came to the lakes and got myself a little summer job in an office in Kendal. I'd never had a civilian job since being like 18 and being a waitress. I'd always been in the police. And oh my goodness, the culture shift was just like, and anyone on the outside hears the story and is like, she's an idiot. Like, of course it was going to be difficult. Why didn't you take time off? You know, I left the Met on the Thursday. I had my leaving due, which was legendary. And then I had the weekend to kind of drive up to the Lake District with all my stuff. And then on Tuesday, I started this little office job. So I went from counter-terrorism in the Met, 16 years of being institutionalized and all this stuff. So just working like phone bookings and sales. Oh my Lord.
So I suppose you have the insight into when people think something's a stressful job or something like that, and you're like, nah, it's not.
Massively so. Yeah, hugely so. I don't always keep my own perspective on that, but you're absolutely right, Pete. Yeah, there's like, for me, running the sports therapy business and like doing the coaching, like there's no such thing as a massage emergency. Like there just isn't. We don't, you know, we don't need that. And like, yeah, other people's stress, you're like, okay.
So how long did it take you a while to actually kind of readjust to the pace of life and just the difference? Because massively.
I think lockdown actually helped a lot with that. I was doing all right for about, I'd say like 2 months was just riding high of like, I've left the Met. Woo! I'm living in the Lake District. Woo! It's summer. This is great. I'm mountain biking every weekend. This is incredible. And then it really started to hit me. All sorts of things that I didn't think about. A little bit of PTSD when crept started showing. I missed, and there's stuff I've been through much more recently, like a couple of years later, that I addressed with jobs I've been to and incidents I dealt with. The pace of life, just not having to rush everywhere. Just being civilian, like not being around other police officers. I imagine the military people will relate to this. You work in a very close-knit team, you have a certain language, way that you speak to each other, everyone operates to the same standard as you, no matter what you think of them. So job-wise, your colleagues, it's very easy sometimes. You can still think, you know, not get on with someone, but you know they'll do the job. Whereas in Civvy Street, it's different. That was really hard. The pace of life was hard, and I definitely took to mountain biking because it gave me adrenaline, and I had some real spicy rides, I would say, early on after leaving, when I was definitely seeking something a bit thrilling and a bit dangerous. And I realised that, thankfully, and talked to Paul about it. And then actually spoke to Claire Booth as well. I remember ringing her after one particularly hairy ride and being like, Claire, I think I'm a bit out of control. I don't know why. And she was like, okay, I think you've got PTSD. And I was like, I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, that I'd sort of addressed that. And yeah, it took about 6 months to calm down. Then we had lockdown and everybody was forced to stop. And I was forced to focus on the business, and I was forced to push myself, really push myself into this new life and not cling on to the old one. And that was so helpful, so helpful.
So were you really into like mountain? I mean, you mentioned the open water swimming was before you moved up there. So you kind of been up there, you'd open water swam. Had you always been into like mountain biking and cycling, or is that something you kind of found when you moved up there, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So living in London, I was absolutely against riding a bike. I can't think of a better way to die. Sorry, I don't want to say the inappropriate, but yeah, having lived in London and policed it as well, like riding a bike to me, I was just like, absolutely not, never. But obviously up here, it's really different. And my other half obviously runs a bike shop, is a cyclist, so it's a good thing I liked it. And we started off mountain biking because it's off road. I really loved it because it gets you out in the countryside. I like the adrenaline. I still mountain bike, not as madly as I used to. I'm a lot less injured as a result of that. I fell off a lot in those first few years. And then I gradually picked up road riding, gravel riding, and yeah, that's how the cycling kind of came into it.
And do you still swim? Is swimming still
Yeah, so no, not at all. It's hilarious. Swimming brought me here, and I'm so grateful for that. And swimming for me was a real personal challenge in that I'd never been really comfortable in water. I'd always done enough in the police to pass tests. But if I'd have really had to rescue someone, like, to slim pickings, like you're probably better off asking someone else. So I could do that. So the swim for me was really just being comfortable in the water. And the open water swimming was an amazing way to de-stress, let go, focus on a new sport away from CrossFit and away from the madness of the police. So it was a very good way to slow down because it's all breathing and all of that. Now I've got much more into cycling. I don't have time. I really don't. And we could talk about that, like the strength training and the time to do all of these things. You want to do everything. But it's almost impossible unless you are retired and just have all the time in the world. So
did you find with the swimming, especially with the open water swimming, you mentioned that it was CrossFit had become a bit toxic for you, just more like because of your competitive nature, or I suppose, or you always wanted to compete. Did you find with the swimming, it kind of separated and it was more about the experience of the swimming rather than racing, or
yeah, absolutely. And it was also, I was a bit fearful of it, so I was really overcoming like a real fear of like putting my head underwater and just breathing in the water and in a totally different environment. So it was that sort of personal challenge, that development really, with the swimming, that was really appealing, really, and just leaving behind all of the shit from, sorry, swearing.
Yeah, no, that's
the
right.
rubbish from CrossFit.
We've had far worse on here.
Oh, fine. Okay.
we had Adam Meekins on. He was great. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So you mentioned there, how busy, or how you have to organize your time now with running a business, doing your own training, doing the sort of strength training side and the therapy side and your own training. So what does training, I mean, do you do a lot of strength training yourself and then you coach others? You said you've got a gym in that premises as well. So how much of your kind of life now is around strength training and how much is around, it sounds like cycling is the other main kind of component of training for you? How does that kind of split up?
Yeah, great question. It depends on what time of year it is. So there's always with me, there is an element of strength training, and that element of strength training may just be swinging a kettlebell 2 or 3 times a week. Just for 10 minutes, like that might be all I have time for. There's always an element. So at the moment, I'd say about 70% of my training time is cycling, is on the bike at the minute, and the rest of it is mobility and strength work. Very much so. I did that original strength workshop with Dan John and Tim Amson last year at your place, and oh my goodness, I was already doing a lot of it, but that weekend really educated me and gave me a blueprint that is used daily here with me and my training and with my clients as well. So at the moment it's about 70-30, I would say, bike and strength. Any more
and is that kind of as high as it gets? So when you get into the summer, does it become even more cycling, or is 70-30 kind of like as cycling dominant as it gets, if you like?
Yeah, probably is about as dominant as it gets, just because I don't have time to do more of it. And if I do, I've learned the hard way over the year. I mean, anyone that knows me will be laughing, because I always like, oh, I don't do that much. I don't do that much. And then like I get all these injuries, or I'm really tired, or my strength suffers. So you can't, if I want to be performing in cycling, which probably the moment I do, I cannot strength train in any progressive way. I could just do it to maintain. Which is why I was going to do my SFB at the end of May, but my body was just like, absolutely not. And mentally as well, it's a lot to hold, that SFB, plus I wanted to test elite. And I just think there's other times in the year I can do that. So over winter, it looks really different. Over winter, it's probably much more strength training, 50-50 or even 60-40. Over winter, because the runs are out.
I love that, because people look, seasons change, but people don't think about seasons within their own life, do they?
No.
And I mean, like, you can talk about seasons within, from your 20s to your 40s to your 60s to your 80s. You can talk about seasons even within the year as well. So I'm always at my strongest in April, after like at the end of winter. But then in summer, I'm doing more walking. I'm out and about more. I'm on holiday a bit more. I'm just a lot more active. I mean, I'm still active in the winter, but like if I do a walk, it's I'm probably walking faster, but it's not as hot. But I'm not walking as far because it gets dark earlier and all that sort of stuff. So I tend to be stronger in April. And I see things pop up on Facebook and stuff like, I'm pressing like heavy weights last year, and I'm like, wow, look at that. And then in September, I can't do it.
Yeah.
That's because I haven't got weaker. I've just different focus over the summer. So that's a great thing for people, because they try to keep everything going for the whole year, don't they? And it's like, actually, no, because you need some time off as well, don't you? You can, like you said, you can maintain over the summer and then build again in winter and maintain and build. And that's how, it's how your garden works, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I love that summary that you've done there. You're absolutely right. It's really cyclical. It really is cyclical. And we encourage all our clients to be like that as well. Get strong over winter, build, do your interval training, get your strength up, lift your heavy weights, do all of that in winter. And then as the days get longer, you get more time. That's when you can do your endurance. You're just going to maintain. And then for your season, whatever that is, that's when you peak. That's when you go for it. So yeah, absolutely right. Yeah.
No, it reminds me, I read a quote again yesterday, which is one of my favorite ones, which is, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. So it's kind of like you say, is you just pick your battles and pick your goals at different times of the year, don't you? And it's when you try and do everything all the time that, like you mentioned, you're going to start picking up injuries, and you're going to be too fatigued, and just systemic fatigue and everything. So
it would be like trying to compete in the Winter and Summer Olympics in the same year, wouldn't
it? yeah, exactly. So maybe we could touch on then this big ride that you've just done out in Mallorca, because I have to say, because I messaged you, I think it was a couple of weeks back, and I sort of said about getting you on the podcast. And I think you were out there at the time when I was messaging you, and you said that you were going to be heading back, so that's why we kind of knocked it back a couple of weeks. So yeah, is it actually called the Mallorca 312?
It is, yeah. So
explain to us what that is. Yeah.
Sure. So it's the Mallorca 312. It's what they call a Gran Fondo, which is a closed road bike ride. There are pro riders that will be on the start line and race it. And then behind them is just like everybody else. But the closed roads is obviously huge. It's called the 312 and it is 312 kilometers because it used to be a circumference of Mallorca. And that distance was 312k. It started about 15 years ago. Unfortunately, because it's closed roads, there's a lot involved in that for the organisers. So a few years ago, they had to change the route. You're right, Pete.
Yeah, I got a fly buzzing around.
Got a friend.
I was just going to quickly say as well for our American listeners, it's about 195 miles. Is that right? Or 200?
That sounds about right. Yeah, I'm always surprised when I hear it in miles.
Yeah, so
Oh,
so
really long way.
312 kilometers is close to 200 miles for our American cousins. Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And you do it in a day. With the closed road thing as well, there's actually shorter distances, and don't get me wrong, like I sound flippant with these short, long, etc. It's all a big day out. Riding, for some people, just riding like 10 miles on a bike is massive. So yeah, please, like it's taken years to get me to be able to do this. So yeah, 312, it's a Gran Fondo, so it's closed roads, which is incredible, and it's meant to be really well supported as well, so with like feed zones, water stations, checkpoints, etc. So they around the route, like I said, they have these shorter distances, which is 225k and 167k. So 167 is just over 100 miles, and then the 225 is somewhere between the two. Because you have to reach, in order to complete the 312 kilometers, you have to reach certain time cutoffs, and they're quite spicy because there's quite a lot of climbing. Mallorca's quite mountainous, and half the route, really, if not more of it, actually 2/3 really, is in the mountains. So you're not just having to ride at a pace to make a cutoff on the flat, you've also got to factor in like 15-kilometer climbs in the mountains as well, which obviously slows you down. So yeah, it was, for me, like I'm probably not a good intermediate cyclist. I don't race. This is kind of for fun, maybe type 2 fun. But again, it's that mental challenge of just holding all of that training, that endurance, the timing, the food, the cutoffs, the other people. It's massive.
Yeah.
So
because you said there was a huge number of people who, I can't remember how many thousand you said started. It was what was the number of people who started on that day?
So this year there were 8,500 cyclists on the start line. Of that, there are definitely a fair number who would have set out to just do the shorter routes. And then a good majority would have been set up on the start line wanting to complete 312k. Yeah.
But it was like so 8,500 started. I think it was less than 3,000 finished the whole thing in the time they had to finish it. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, 8,500 started. I've got about 2,500 completed the 312k or 195 miles or whatever it is. And then I'm very proud of the fact that there were only 167 women, and I was one of them that completed the whole 312k, which is really great. It really highlights a bit of a disparity, or quite a big disparity, in there probably aren't as many females on the start line. And then it brings into play like the whole thing about the difference in speed, power, etc., with the gender split. But yeah, I'm pretty chuffed with the fact that I finished, and it was my first go as well. Not many people do 312 on their first attempt. So yeah.
And is Paul, is it your partner? Was Paul out there as well? Did he do it with you?
Yes. Yeah. We did it together.
Yeah.
And we were really fortunate, actually, because of his YouTube channel, we received what they call a media entry. So there will be a YouTube video about it. We filmed it. We filmed some of our training. We filmed our bikes, and all of that for his channel. And as we were going around, we filmed the event. So at some point there'll be a Mallorca 312 YouTube video with us on it. So we had a media entry, which was brilliant, which put us very near the front of the start line, which was really, really advantageous as the day went. It just really, really helped us. That being said, our speed was sufficient, so I'm dead proud of that. And it took the pressure off a little bit in that we weren't going for a time. We weren't trying to be as fast as possible. We were simply just doing it, like get round. I think you have 14 hours, and then are all in. There was a few delays on the day, and this is what happens. No matter how fast we were, there was delays on the day at checkpoints, and there was a course stop and all this stuff. We did it in like 13:50, but cool as cucumbers. We were like, we've got this. It's fine. We got time to spare. Like, we're good.
You had a whole 10 minutes to
We
spare.
had a whole 10 minutes to spare, but it's kind of, and it sounds, after the event, you're like, oh, that sounds rubbish. That sounds like they were, you know, but the lived experience of that was completely different. Like our moving time was 12.5 hours.
Yeah,
which is phenomenal. Like, that's a super great time, but obviously you do have to stop. You have to pee. Like, there was an incident on the course when they stopped the course for half an hour. So it's all out of your control. You just got to go with the flow.
So I think I've done 100-mile cycles a couple of times, and I cycled once up Mount Teide in Tenerife, which I think is the highest mountain in Spain or something. But I did it with just ridiculous, zero training and went without any food, or it's horrible, you know. But I can't imagine doubling that and going from 100 to 200 miles. 100 miles is a long way to cycle.
100 miles is a really long way,
you know. So 200 miles nearly is you know, it's just everything, isn't it? But it's the things that you don't expect, isn't it? It's like your wrists and your neck and just you know, sitting on the saddle for that amount of time, and which you said you built up to it very gradually.
Absolutely. Plus off the bike training, original strength and Dan John have a lot of input in that definitely.
So I was going to say, how does you, because that is a mega endurance event, like 14 hours on the bike. Obviously we probably won't go into the nutrition because that's probably a whole nother podcast.
It's a whole nother world, and I'm not very good at it, so
but that's, you know, I know what that's like, because doing that Mount Teide ride, and you're riding uphill for, like, you say 20-30 kilometers or something. I got to the top and I just wanted to inhale just whatever food I could get, you know. It's ridiculous. But and then obviously coming down was a lot quicker. But the actual strength, so with it being that much of an endurance event and it's 14 hours, how important do you think it is for you to be strong?
You know, massively.
Within, like, you know, 5 to 10 reps sort of strength. How does it translate really into endurance on a bike? Because that's interesting.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if I get this completely right, but I think it's an experiment for sure. So endurance wise, so 5 sets of 5 at body weight with a squat, and then swinging. For me, I'm always swinging a kettlebell, and they say, you know, strong first standards, I can hit them. And then I usually swing like a 24 or 28. And if I'm training through winter and I'm strong, people will watch my training videos and be like, oh, you need a heavier kettlebell, da 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 da. And then it's that, like, wants, needs, shoulds, coulds, like what's the goal here? You know, again, and we bang on about Dan John a lot, don't we? But keep the goal the goal. My goal is to sit on a bike for 14 hours, not to do sinister. Like, so I don't need that. Can I always be stronger? Yes. Is it always going to serve me really well? Yes. And we've seen that not just with me, but with all the clients as well. Everybody moving well, doing head nods, like getting their neck mobility, like having this ability on a bike. I'm nodding my head. That repetition and just those strong first principles, really, of just always being able to recover from your strength session. Which is why we keep it going. So for me, the back squat, I like to keep my back squat at least at body weight for 25 reps, 5 sets of 5. Deadlift, I kind of play around with that, but because I'm always swinging a kettlebell, I love deadlifting, but that's my strength builder. That's my, like, big, like, get me really strong. So that, again, I stick to strong first standard there of 1.5 times. But with my clients, like, for them, they've not got the training years that I've got. So we start with the body weight as a goal for 5 reps, and then we build it from there. And then accessory work, I look at so much with them in terms of just their ability to use their core, which is where kettlebells are so great, like bottoms up walking, bottoms up pressing, things like that. Crawling, we do so much crawling.
So your clients that you're training, do you train a lot of cyclists? Is that who you're working? What just that'd be interesting as well. I mean, do you do a lot of strength training with cyclists in that setup that you've got there? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, we do. Most people that come through the door here either ride a bike or do some kind of ultra running or fell running. So fell running is literally in the mountains. They can be short distances, like 5 kilometers, but they'll do 500 meters of climbing or something ridiculous. So it's that sort of endurance type. And to get them comfortable on a bike or doing something repetitively, we need a really solid core and we need joints that move really well. And the strength comes after that. So yeah, people that live in Kendal, I'd say the population of the lakes is kind of exceptional in that like they do crazy stuff. You know, Rich, my colleague at Sports Recovery Kendal, we're always joking that like we get people come in who are marathon training, and that's massive to do a marathon. Like, I don't know if either of you have ever run one. It's horrendous. It's an awful experience. I don't recommend it. And they're so big on it, and they're like, I'm running a marathon, and we're like, all right, cool. And you have to remember to be excited about that, because we've just had someone in, you know, the client before them, who's done their second ultra distance of the week, you know, or they're doing something crazy, and you're like, okay, and you kind of get immune to it because everyone's doing it. I've just ridden 300k. No one in Kendal cares. Like, literally, my postman is fair. Like,
but is there like a real, I mean, maybe I'm beginning, is there like a really old sort of population, like a nice, like quintessentially nice, like old English kind of pensioners there, and then you've also got these really fit kind of people who've moved up there to be really outdoorsy and do swimming and cycling, and what's that like?
So that's really interesting observation. Yeah, except that all of the retirees are the fittest, strongest people you've ever met, because all they do is ride their bikes and run in the fells. So yeah, we were joking about it downstairs this morning with the boys. Our mechanics are in their sort of mid-20s, a lot of them, and they're into everything. And they're like, oh yeah, but it's so humbling on Strava because like a 7-year-old would be faster than you. And it's so true.
That's what's great though, because your environment breeds what you do, right? So because like we live where we are, it's the Brecons are just like an hour and a half up the road or whatever. And we were coming up, me and Sean were coming up Jacob's Ladder once and on Penny Fan, and there was this like, she looked like she was about 80-year-old woman with a little Jack Russell coming down, you know, and I was just like, that is amazing. And this guy was like, oh, she's out here like 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
Absolutely.
It was like us lot blowing, walking up this thing, and she was just like doobie jumping across the and stuff. You know,
so yeah,
fantastic.
The older, it's brilliant, isn't it? So yeah, to answer your question, James, yeah, the older population in Kendal are all super fit generally. We see generally our gym is like 35 plus, I would say, age bracket. So people who've just started to realize that they need to do a bit more in the gym to keep them going out of the gym. And that's what we really try and focus on. I teach them everything, the whole, you know, kettlebells, barbells, body weight, crawling, mobility, massive thing, mobility and strength training. Yeah, that's huge. And then it's the whole idea of it is to keep you going and keep you doing your endurance sport or going out on the fells and enjoying it, however, whether it's swimming, running, cycling, whatever you want to do.
Oh, that's incredible. And what is what proportion would you say of your working week is the kind of the therapy side, and what is the kind of the strength training sort of side? How does that split for you?
Yeah, that's cyclical, completely cyclical.
Oh, okay.
At the moment, yeah. So at the moment, it's probably like 70-30, I'd say. 70% at the moment, I'm doing soft tissue work and massage and one-to-one sessions with movement. And then I've got a handful of, like, I do a bit of online programming, a little bit of online programming for people, and they come in and check in once a month with me. So I see them, that's like a handful of people. And then I teach about 4 or 5 classes a week. One split between Sports Recovery Kendal and for MapTech Cycle Works as well. Yeah. Okay. And that will reduce even more than over summer. My coaching will kind of go down. I'll do more massage work because they're all out. They're all racing. I was
going to say, far more outdoorsy, and recovery sort of stuff. Yeah.
So do you? So this is interesting then. So because like obviously on training side, you've got seasons. So do you have like a business season as well where you do more of that, but do you get more time to yourself during the summer, like to do things that you want to do? Does that work like that, or do you just do more massage and
No, I try. I definitely try. Yeah, the idea of leaving one career that was like super intensive and obviously at the behest of a shift pattern and the public and any incident that happened to occur in London. The idea of being self-employed or running a business, it was very much like I want it to work for me. So you two both run businesses, you know, self-employed, etc. You know how easy it is to just do that, and then you're always wanting to say yes. You know, you've built a business from nothing. You know, initially it's going to be hard work. So I've really worked hard the past year, I would say, to build in time for me, to train, but also to see my family. You know, my dad's really, really ill at the moment. And they've moved up here. My parents moved up, so they're in Kendal as well. And having that time just to be able to go and see them and be with them, and see him, like that's really, really important. And yeah, it's part of the privilege, I suppose, of running your own business, is that it's such a contrast with how my partner runs his business. You know, he has a different vision for where he wants MapDeck Cycle Works to go and what he wants it to do, and that's brilliant. And then with Sports Recovery Kendal, I'm like, yeah, I want it to do stuff, and that's enabled now. I have Rich on board as an employee. We can grow, but it's me that it's got to serve, really. In terms of like it's business. My clients, like that, they're amazing, and I love working with them and seeing people through that. But yeah, the time, I've fought really hard to just carve out the time for me, whatever that looks like.
But this is where we talk about getting the right clients and all that sort of stuff. I mean, getting into the business side of it, but it's like, if they appreciate that, it's better for everybody, isn't it? Because if they don't appreciate that and you've got people who want you at their beck and call and all that, nobody wins. Because then you're not at your best, are you? So,
Absolutely,
you know, it's a two-way street. So that's good stuff, that.
And also, then you'd be up in this beautiful place up in the lakes, but you wouldn't really be appreciated because you'd be just as busy as you were down in London, you know. So you want to, yeah.
It's hard to strike a balance, and it's seasonal. You know, I definitely work more in winter. 100%. I work way longer hours in winter, and I think I'm still working. You know, I look at I'm really interested always like how Megan Kelly, Stevie over in Ireland, like the way that they run their days and their weeks. You know, they work. Megan, I think, works quite a long week, but her hours are all really early in the morning. Whereas I have like a day, pretty much a whole day, kind of off in the middle of the week, and then I don't work weekends. Like, you know, so it's business, isn't it? You know, if I wanted to grow, if I was ambitious to do different things, I would run my business differently. But
like you say, it's kind of like more about a lifestyle, isn't it? It's kind of like the lifestyle that you want. And that's like I always think with Pete down in Bath, you know, he's got this, well, I say this, he's got this lovely life down in Bath, and he's probably thinking, well, you know, but you know,
no, it is.
Yeah.
Like Wednesday, right? We've got the Wednesday evening walks during the winter, during the summer.
Yeah.
So I was out on that yesterday, but I took Sid out for 2 hours, like just around some meadows that are flat, like between 1 and 3, got back, sorted out dinner. Then I had to leave again at 4 to get to the start of the walk for 5:30 because I have to walk there. And it was in this other place. So I walked over there, we did the walk, and then Sean came and picked me up at the end because she's finished work by then and stuff like that. So I ended up doing 16 miles of walking yesterday on my day off, right? In the sunshine. It was lovely weather. But also serving the people who are coming along anyway. So it was like everybody, and the dog got a walk, so everybody wins. It's amazing.
That's
like
amazing.
if you can do that, you know, like that's a good life.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So Vicki, after this big, because I mean, it was literally like last week you came back from Mallorca, wasn't it? So that was huge. I mean, how much recovery does that take you in terms of time, having done like 312 kilometers, nearly 200 miles in a day? I mean, how much time off do you take from training, if you like, after that?
Well, yeah, I'm really surprised this year. I did my first like 300-kilometer ride last year, and I had to take like 2-3 weeks off. I was absolutely exhausted last year after doing it, really tired, felt really beat up. It was a slightly different, it wasn't in Mallorca, it was a slightly different thing. In Mallorca, the recovery was phenomenal. I just felt amazing. We took a day off afterwards and did all like nice Mallorca things, like, you know, ate loads of food and walked on the beach. I was a bit sore, a little bit sore, not horrendous. I didn't have terrible stuff going on. We rode our bikes. We were there for like 4 days after the event, so it was all really relaxed. And I was very conscious of my body and like looking after it. So I'll be honest, I haven't really taken any time off. But I think that just is testament to the fact that my training was just right, and my strength training was on point. My body and my health were really on it. And also post ride, I knew I had 5 days in Mallorca. There was no stress. I wasn't working. I didn't have to see clients. I wasn't planning sessions for people. I wasn't doing, you know, all of that stuff. I was just in Mallorca with my bike and my boyfriend, and we were having a nice time. And as it was, we did quite a bit of riding, but it was never hard. It was just riding because we like to do it. Like Pete doing 16 miles yesterday, you know, he just did it. And that's how it is. So I was a bit tired when I got back, but like I was back in the gym this week. I didn't train obviously in Mallorca in the gym. I was back in the gym this week, and I've just restricted myself 2 sessions a week to a bit of strength and power training over the next 6 weeks. And I'm going to do the 300k gravel ride in June the 8th. I'm going to have another.
Because that was going to be my next question. Yeah, what's next? So yeah. Oh, that's good, because I know that's well, what date is this going out? The 23rd of May. Yeah, but as we're recording, that's about kind of 4 weeks away, isn't it?
Yeah.
So so that's another 300-kilometer ride, but on gravel, is it?
On gravel, yeah. So on road and off road. I know, it's bonkers, isn't it? If you'd like 3-4 years ago, if you'd have told me this is what I would be doing, I would just laughed at you and be like, "There's no way she could do that. Like, no, she's not able." But I really enjoy it. I think that's the key, isn't it? It's like when you enjoy something, you do it. And I have learned, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've tried too hard in the past. I think the CrossFit history of like push, go to failure, like all of this. I've learned the hard way, you know, that it doesn't have to be like that. And the gravel ride will be fun. Like there's stuff I want to improve from last year. I'd like it to be I'd like to think I'll be a bit quicker, but there's a lot less stress with that. There's no time cut-offs on it. You can take literally as long as
where is that? Is that up near you? Is that up near
it's it's a fabulous route. Another great reason for doing it. It's a wonderful route. It starts in Scotland, in Rockcliffe Bay, which is southwest of Dumfries. So Solway coast and keep going. Southwest of Dumfries.
I've been up there, yeah.
And then you ride all through that area of Scotland towards the Tweed Valley, so towards Moffat. And you wend your way around the Tweed Valley and you cross the border into England, and you ride right through Northumberland and Kielder Forest, which
Northumberland.
Hey. And you go all through Kielder on gravel, which is phenomenal, and then you finish in Druridge Bay, which you might know, Pete. So it's essentially a coast to coast. And that's mega. It's really well supported as well. It's called the Frontier 300. It's a brilliant ride. Really, really good.
And will Paul do that one as well with you?
Yes, he's going to do it, and a friend of his. And I don't know, him and I do this stuff together. His background is adventure racing. So his skill of endurance, we always say like skill is a strength, so is endurance is an absolute skill. It is amazing. Of doing these multi-day adventure races where you're kayaking, walking and mountain biking all over the world, days on end. Do
you know Sean Conway at all? Do you know? Yeah, we had Sean Conway on the podcast, didn't we, as well? Yeah, who was?
I was going to ask about this because you said about the 312, this other ride that you're doing, how Paul does these things and everything as well. But yet you were talking about being competitive from being in the police force and then doing the CrossFit stuff and all of that sort of stuff. But now it's not necessarily, it's the competition with yourself of just doing the thing for endurance rather than doing it to get a time. And then because the way I kind of have learned it, or the way I see it, is if you go for a time on these things, that's when you're knackered the next day. That's when you ache. That's when all of these things. But then if you like that, you want to then do the next thing. So you want to keep going, and then that's when you get injured and all that. Whereas if you can actually do 312 kilometers in less than 14 hours, that's good for most people anyway. Like for everyone, it's good for everyone. But you've done it without even like not without trying, but you've done it like relatively easily. But I mean, as in afterwards, you don't need that much recovery because you're like, well, I can still do stuff for the next 5 days, have a bit of time off, and I'm back on it again.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's amazing because it's I do that with walking. I did a 26 miler the other week. And I was out walking the dog the next day, and then it was all fine. You know, and a couple of other people who did it were kind of like, "Oh, I'm a bit achy today. I'm not going to go walking for a few days because everything hurts." And it's like, well, they wanted to get a time. They were legging it.
Exactly. It's that intensity factor, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big deal. There's a couple of things I was giving this some thought actually before talking to you guys, and yeah, thanks for some. And I don't. When you say that, Pete, when you did that, somewhere, I was like, I don't believe that. She sounds like an idiot. Like, who's that girl? But there's that element of the skill of knowing the intensity at which to ride, and then that general over the years, just that raising of your bottom line. And that's kind of how I feel like, yeah, probably makes it sound like I'm like addicted to training and I'm always on the bike and I'm always fully on it with my nutrition and being out and doing stuff. I'm absolutely not. But over the years, my bottom line has just risen and risen and risen and just crept up and up and up. And it's the same kind of with the strength training. I'm not the strongest person, but there's a bottom line that I have, which is a strong first standard, which pretty decent, and then that just becomes more and more normal, and you can raise that bar just ever so slightly. And I feel like over the years, like something this year has just worked, and that's brilliant. And I'm just gonna go off that, and I'm gonna try really hard not to get carried away and do too much.
What you just said there is hilarious. You're like, something this year has just worked. It's like, it's not this year. It's because of everything you've done. Yeah. Everything we've just talked about for the last hour.
yeah, I guess so.
No, this is fantastic. And Vicki, if I don't mind me asking, how old are you now? I've done my maths. I think I approximately know, but you're.
Yeah, I'm 42. Yeah. 42.
That's what. Yeah. So yeah, and this is the other thing, isn't it? Like at like 42, which is not old, I know, because we're both older than that. But you know, in your 40s, continuing to not. You know, continuing to improve. And like you say, you use the term, you know, raising your base level, or, you know, Paul McElroy would say expanding the comfort zone. You know, you're just kind of just expanding what's capable for you. And like you say, the fact that you can do 312K, wake up the next day and not really be sore, you know, and be able to go and have a nice day the next day is amazing. No, it's so inspiring, I think. And I think it's really been lovely talking to you, because I think that is what I wanted to try to get across, or try for people to understand the lifestyle that you've got, or the lifestyle. You know, the lifestyle you've chosen. That was a big risk and a big change, leaving London, leaving a really secure, albeit stressful job, and to leave London and to move up to the Lake District and open your own business and total change your life. But I mean, you've got no regrets, have you, about what you've done?
Absolutely none. No, I think none at all.
We're gonna say yes.
That would be a great way to finish the podcast. Oh yeah, I regret everything. I hate my life.
Take me back to that box in Vauxhall. Yeah, no, definitely not at all. It's hard. It's been hard. You know, of course it has. But you both run businesses. People listening, we all have lives. We all have stuff. But yeah, it's definitely. When I reflect on it and talk about it, which I don't often do really, it is incredible, and there are no regrets. Like every challenge so far has been worth it, like 100%.
Amazing. So if people want to kind of follow you and your adventures and what you're getting up to up in Kendal and things, what's the best avenue? Are you most active on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, or where do you want people to go?
So at the moment I would say probably Instagram, Vic Strength and Sports Recovery Kendal. Sports Recovery Kendal very much focuses on, you know, how to look after yourself. Rich does some brilliant content on there for me, which is amazing. And then Vic Strength is my own personal account, and I'm not great at posting all the time, but if I do something, like I generally will put it out there. So yeah, you can follow me and get in touch. Yeah.
And what was it? What's the bike one again?
Yeah, so the YouTube channel for Paul is Mapdeck Cycle Works on YouTube. Lots of stuff on there about bikes, but we're all friends here. Every subscriber really helps us. So
Yeah.
you don't have to watch videos about bottom brackets and wheels and stuff. I'm on there sometimes. My bike's on there. I'm on there a bit.
Yeah.
Which is always hilarious
because bike people are real, and I'm saying this in the nicest term, are real geeks, aren't they? You know what I mean?
Oh God,
yeah,
unbelievable.
Yeah. Because I used to live next door to a really, really good bike, or 2 doors down from a really, really good bike shop, and I think they were, you know, they did lots of servicing. They had lots of, like, you know, all the kind of Cannondales and Chevellos and all these bikes in there, thousands and thousands of pounds. But they were such nerds in there, but they were great guys, you know, because they just, you know, they could talk for hours about, like you say, bottom brackets and pedals and gears and brakes and all the rest of it. But no, it's
so true.
Brilliant. No, thank you so much, Vicky. That was really lovely. And hopefully at some stage, I mean, are you going to be up at Lilleshall in October this year, do you think?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
I haven't sorted my life out around that yet. Applying for that and doing my videos. But yeah, I'd like to be. I love keeping my hand in with Strong First, and I will do the body weight at some point, and I will do elite. But it's got to work in this, you know, what we've just talked about.
Yeah. No, it has to. I mean, like I've just done more. I did a strongman comp last weekend, and the SFB's coming up, and I haven't done anything. I'm not really that. I shouldn't say I'm not really that bothered if I do the SFB or not this time, because I'm focusing on other things. You know what I mean? You can't do everything, you know. So
I like that. I'm not bothered if I'm doing it or not. I'm just hosting it. And
no, but you know, I shouldn't. But that's what I mean. You shouldn't say. But I mean, it's great. It's always great to see everyone and know what's going on. But you know, you have to kind of, you know, pick your battles and decide what you're focusing on at the time, don't you? Which is great. And we will, Pete. Actually, we'll try and get Stevie Shank talking about Scotland. I've just booked my flights and hotel up in Scotland for the Donald Dinny Day in August. So we're going to be up in Scotland. We're going to be up in Scotland together, aren't we?
We are, yeah. Well, I'm in the lakes first, actually. I'm staying in Threlcote for a couple of days, and then we're going up around Scotland, and then we get to Aberdeen for the the Highland Games, and then the Dinny Gathering the day after.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm flying up on the Saturday evening to Aberdeen. So no, that'll be amazing. That'll be great. So we'll have to get Stevie back on, actually, because I was with Sven yesterday. Obviously, I was talking about Stevie and stone lifting and things like that. So we'll get Stevie back on in the build up to the Dinny Day. That'll be amazing. Cool. Thank you so much, Vicky. That was really lovely talking to you. And it does sound like I mean, I'm rubbish, as Pete knows. Anything north of like Birmingham, I kind of, but
Birmingham, you don't even know.
But I have been to the Lake District. It is an amazing place. You know, it's just beautiful. Yeah, I will do. I'll have to come. I'll have to come back. Right, brilliant.
You can start on bagging your Wainwrights, James.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what that means.
No, I haven't got a clue. No, I'm staring blankly at the screen. Okay. So thank you, everybody, for listening, for watching. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're watching or listening on a platform that allows you to do so, especially if you're on Apple Podcasts. We will be back next week with Sally Moss from Strength Ambassadors in London. That will be episode 248. Until then, have a fantastic week. Thank you very much, Vicky.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Peter Lance.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Okay, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.